Hi, I'm Autumn,
And I'm Laura,
and together we're the
the
Boo
Boo
Sisters.
Sisters. Welcome, Boo Crew family, to our third episode. No, fourth? What is this? To our fourth episode.
755th episode. We've been doing this for 50 years.
We are now old ladies.
Here's the grannies. Have you
The
watched
Boo Grannies.
have you watched Bluey? Probably not.
No.
Bluey, it's a big kid show, right? You know what it is.
Well,
And
I've watched it at your house like once or
okay.
twice with Ainsley.
And Bluey and Bingo play the grannies, and they're like these
Hmm.
mischievous old ladies when they turn into the grannies, and it's so funny. Anyway, side
Yeah.
note. But did you have something you wanted to talk about that is not grannies related?
Pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh, should we debate pumpkin spice lattes
The
and how
fact
they
that
taste like candles?
Boo Crew. Autumn has never had a pumpkin spice latte. She is banned. She is banned from all things now. I have
It
decided
sounds like a candle in my mouth.
that could be true. I guess I've never tried a candle, but it's tasty and you should at least try it.
Well, how do you order it? Just say pumpkin spice latte.
I get mine iced, but you can get it hot. If I go to Starbucks, I say iced pumpkin spice latte and I get mine blonde. So blonde espresso.
Otherwise, they use
Not blonde
brunette,
espresso.
brunette
Yes,
espresso.
it's brunette espresso. Because blonde is a light coffee, so it's better for me for acid reflux. The normal espresso is stronger, so you will have a stronger coffee taste if you don't specify blonde.
All right, I guess I'll get one just for you tomorrow, and I will text you if it's disgusting or good. Maybe we should put a poll.
Yeah, let's do
Put
a
a poll
poll
up
in our
on if
Patreon.
people like pumpkin spice lattes or if they taste like candles.
I think there's probably more than those two options.
Okay, we'll
Like
put a
maybe
couple
there's a third
options.
option that's okay, they're all right, but they don't taste like candles and I don't really like them.
Okay, we'll put that option up there too. It just sounds disgusting. It tastes like I'm drinking a pumpkin, and I don't really like, you know,
Do you like pumpkin pie?
yeah, but not as a drink. Doesn't that sound disgusting to you if you blended up pumpkin pie and drank it? Ugh.
No, I would love that in a shake, like a pumpkin
Ugh.
shake.
I don't know why it sounds gross
Pumpkin
to
ice
me.
cream. Have you never had pumpkin ice cream?
No, but I'll try it.
Aside from pumpkin spice lattes, I do have a question for you
Okay.
because as we enter spooky season, I want to surround myself with all things haunted and spooky. And I was looking at the most recent Project Fear merch and even the more recent Ghost Hunter like Taps merch because I guess there's some of that that's available still and I didn't even know that until this year when we went to the Penhurst Paracon. And
Yeah.
so now that I do know that, there's all this merch that I want. And it got me thinking about what my favorite piece of ghost merch is that isn't equipment for ghost hunting.
Um, Good question. I'm really still loving the Taps gear. I could use a new Taps hoodie.
What do you have currently that you love? Since I know, but the people don't know.
Actually, my favorite thing that I love is Adam Berry's line, My Haunted Life. He has great hoodies that are so soft, and he also has cute hats and blankets. It's because his logo to me is so simple and nondescript and can work with everything. I really like his line of stuff. Go check that out.
And of the things you have of his, what's your favorite if you had to pick one favorite piece?
Well, if you know me, you know I'm a hoodie girl. I have like 30 million gazillion hoodies in my closet. So I guess I would have to pick that. I
Is
guess
it
I'd
a
have to.
black hoodie? Is
It's like
it
a dark blue hoodie,
mhm.
zip hoodie. It's my favorite. What's your favorite?
Even though it doesn't fit me as well anymore, my favorite piece is still the original Taps zip hoodie that I got way back in the day when we were watching. It was probably like season 6 or something like that of
that we
Ghost
got for each
Hunters.
other.
Yeah, that we got for each other. One Christmas, we both ended up getting each other a Ghost Hunter Taps hoodie without knowing the other person got the same thing for the Christmas present.
And that
And
was so funny.
it was so good though, because we were both thinking the same thing, but we got each other the perfect antithesis of hoodies for each other. I got this white kind of one, and you got me this black one,
Hmm.
and the prints were somewhat similar and the styles. And I just thought it was just such a great moment.
Yeah, it was very serendipitous. I love that. That's going to be a memory forever. I think mom knew we had gotten each other
Yeah.
the same thing and had kept that a secret for a month or two, just probably laughing to herself.
Yeah. Like my strange daughters. What is wrong with them?
So that's fun.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really fun. I wonder what everyone else's is that they have. That would be fun to know for when we start a merch line, what we should put out there.
How many episodes have we asked that question in the intro?
Have we
If we
asked?
did a merch line, what should we do?
Have we
It's
asked that? I feel like
it's
we haven't
only
asked that.
because we love merch so much that
Okay,
we just want to make
we
our
love,
own.
yeah, we love shopping. Well, maybe we put out an official poll. How many polls can we do in one episode?
I
There.
think one of my favorite things of Adam Berry's line is the totes haunted tote bag, just because
Oh,
it's a
right.
pun. I love that.
Totes haunted. If I used tote bags, I would have gotten that by now.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think if he had a totes haunted other kind of bag, like a satchel bag or backpack, that would be cool too.
Yeah. Note to Adam Berry. Put
Who's
that on a
definitely
put that
listening.
put that on a satchel.
Adam Berry, you heard it here first. We'll be your first buyers.
It doesn't quite work on a satchel since it's not a tote. You can't put like
Satchel haunted.
satchel haunted. We're gonna make that a thing now. Oh my gosh, that's satchel haunted.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
okay. We better get into the stories. I feel like we've lost
So
listeners already.
we've lost the plot.
Who goes first?
You
I
do. You go
I
first
go
this week.
first?
Yeah, you
Okay.
do. And we're doing cryptids, so it's a little bit different. For anybody who's a new listener, just know this is a haunted podcast, but today we're doing something different, which is cryptids.
Which are kind of haunted. So,
It's still
um,
paranormal adjacent.
right. Are you ready?
I am ready. You can commence.
The Bermuda Triangle is well known, but few have heard of the Alaskan Triangle. Twice as many people go missing in the Alaskan Triangle than the national average. Since 1988, over 16,000 people have disappeared in this small area, never to be found. This mysterious region runs from Anchorage in the south to Juneau in the southeast panhandle to Barrow, a small town on the state's northern coast. Most blame Alaska's harsh weather and unforgiving wilderness, but the folk native to the region blame it on something much more sinister.
The abominable snowman.
That would be fun. Put Yeti on the future list. Imagine walking through the dense, misty forests of Alaska, the sound of rushing water close by, when suddenly you hear a cry. It sounds human, desperate, lost, but something about it feels wrong. But you move towards the cry, pushed forward by pure adrenaline to save a wounded or scared creature. Tonight, I bring you the legend and stories of the Kushtaka, a shape-shifting trickster of Tlingit lore, a native tribe to Alaska. Dun dun dun. That sentence, by the way, was like a total tongue twister. Say Kushtaka, a shape-shifting trickster of Tlingit lore.
Yeah, no, I'm okay.
The
Kushaka.
Tlingit Kushtaka. Isn't
It
that a cool
sounds really
word?
cool. Yeah, I want to say it.
The Tlingit are an indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest coast, primarily in southern Alaska. Their name means people of the tide, reflecting their deep connection to the ocean and coastal environment, sustaining their tribe for an estimated 10,000 years of existence. Their culture is known for their deep spiritual focus and elaborate artistry. If you've ever visited Alaska or maybe even seen pictures, you may have seen their famous, beautifully carved totem poles. It is said that the legend of the Kushtaka has been passed down for centuries through the tribe's tradition of passing down stories orally for generations. The Kushtaka have been around possibly longer than written record. The stories gained more traction in the early and mid 20th century as movies and literary works started reflecting on encounters with the Kushtaka. Now, I'm going to pause my story here for a moment for some personal trivia. Laura,
Uh-oh.
what is my favorite animal?
An otter?
Ding, 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 ding. That is correct.
Yes.
I literally wrote down on my paper, ding, 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 ding. That's correct. I was prepared to say that no matter what animal you said. But I was going to say, that's correct, an otter, even if you said a panda. Okay, so I ultimately chose the Kushtaka because this cryptid is a hideous, ferocious beast with fangs, a creature so foul and cruel that death awaits you all with nasty, big, pointy teeth.
So wait, is it a giant otter? I'm confused.
That's right! The Kushtaka resemble an otter. Dun dun dun.
So it's cute.
But did you get that I said a hideous, ferocious beast with fangs?
Right, but
That's
it's
that
also cute.
bunny. That's that bunny from the Castle of Arg. A creature
Yes.
so foul and cruel. Okay, we're passing that.
No,
Okay,
no, no, I understand. I was just trying to put it two and two
put
together
it all
because
together. Okay, here we go. It's an otter. The charming little stuffed animals floating along the river, giving hugs to each other and holding paws while they sleep so they don't lose each other. This is the Kushtaka.
mm,
This is exactly why the otter is so feared by the Tlingit. It is their cuteness that makes them so dangerous and unassuming. Groups of otters are especially alarming. That's because,
I'm sorry.
listen, okay, it's
Wait,
about to get,
what's a group of otter called? Is it a pod? What is it?
I don't
A
know,
cuddle? A snuggle of otters? I
a
have to look it up
snuggle
now.
of
Hang on.
otters.
Hang on, I have to look it up.
It's a romp on land and a raft
Oh,
in the water. So a
okay.
romp or raft of otters is especially alarming.
Yes,
A
well,
romp of otters would be alarming.
no, that sounds adorable. I want to be in a romp of otters right now.
But these are otters are not harmless. They are spiritual beings that can shapeshift into an otter, a familiar person, or a huge human-like figure with coarse hair, webbed feet, and claws for fingers. So think of a huge otter without a cute furry face and a six-pack for abs. So it's actually really terrifying.
Otterman. Otterman.
The Tlingit believe that otters could be just an otter, or it could be the spiritual being that's a shape shifting spirit that can turn into this hideous type beast, or a familiar person to lure you to their death. I'm going to send you a picture
That's not really a human. That's just the big otter form.
so you can see. Yeah, it's a big man like otter. It's
Hmm.
kind of like a Bigfoot, except it has an otter face.
And a tail.
Right.
And webbed
Webbed
digits.
feet and claws. Yeah.
Interesting.
The Kushtaka will do anything to lure you away from your home or your village and lead you into the isolated woods. They most often prey on the innocence of small children or those who are lost. They will lead you away from home or claim to help lost souls by impersonating an injured baby, perhaps a woman in distress, or maybe even a familiar friend who needs your help. Once they
But
lure
you
you,
know what would be more effective though? To lure
uh,
you away, to lure
handsome
most people
bachelor.
away? A handsome bachelor. Yeah, that would be good too. Or just being a cute otter that's like,
Yeah,
I'm a cute little otter. Follow me. Look at how cute I am.
right. Well, some of the tales are kind of in that vein too.
Oh,
We'll get
okay.
into it.
Continue.
Once they lure you away, they either tear you to pieces or they steal your soul and you become one of them. Once you're a Kushtaka, according to Tlingit lore, your soul is unable to be reincarnated. Luckily, like holy water to vampires, the presence of copper, fire, and dogs will keep the Kushtaka away.
Just like normal otters then.
Probably. I don't believe an otter would like a dog, so it's probably true. Nor fire. Who does, right? Okay, we're going to go into some of the real life encounters now.
With the Kushtaka.
It's so fun to say. I
I
had
feel
to
like
look up how
every
to say it.
space has to be
I
Kushtaka.
I had to look up how to say Kushtaka and Clean Kit. Okay. So the History Channel's Missing in Alaska series once devoted an entire episode to the Kushtaka. They called it Soul Stealing Shapeshifters. It begins with a chilling account from the 1900s. A gold prospector named Harry Kolb had just arrived in Alaska, drawn by the promise of fortune. He was exploring a glacier near Thomas Bay, but instead of bustling wilderness, he noticed something strange, an eerie silence. No birds, no animals, nothing. Laura, do you remember me doing a podcast on that national forest in
Yes,
Canada?
because I was about to say this sounds like the Nahadi National Forest in
Yes.
Canada.
So it's near the same area in that Northwest
Oh,
territory.
that was
It's
so otter people monsters.
in that, right. So after I read this, I was like, oh my goodness, these stories have so much overlap. If you have not listened to that episode, it is episode 2.6. It's one of my personal favorites, and I would urge you to go listen to it.
So you
Okay.
did say that the Kushtaka have been known to tear people apart, but I recall
Yeah,
in the Nahani forest that people's heads were like severed off their bodies
right.
and that the cabins like went up in flames. And if these things don't like fire, that seems less likely.
Right, which is probably why the Kushtaka never came up when I was investigating that because
It
a
didn't
bunch
fit
of
quite right.
other cryptids
Mm-hmm.
did from that area, right? But not this one.
But it's
So,
interesting that, as you said, they do have certain things in common, especially the idea of the miners going in and disturbing the land. Like, this is another type of
mhm.
almost guardian of the natural world in a way.
So back to this Harry Culp guy, fellow. He is searching for his gold. He's in that area. He gets there. It feels weird to him. And then he sees it, a massive humanoid figure charging toward him. Its hands ended in long, claw-like fingers, its body covered in coarse, bristling hair. Terrified, the man fled. He wrote about the encounter in his journals, which were not discovered until after his death by his daughter and were later published as the strangest story ever told. So,
Mm.
in his manuscript, he wrote, Swarming up the ridge toward me from the lake were the most horrible creatures. I couldn't call them anything but devils, as they were neither men nor monkeys, yet looked like both. They were entirely sexless, their bodies covered with long, coarse hair, except where scabs and running swords had been replaced.
Mm.
Each one seemed to be reaching out for me and striving to be the first to get me. God, how did I run? I could feel their hot breath on my back, their long claw-like fingers scraping it. The smell from their steaming, stinking bodies was making me sick, while the noises they made, yelling, screaming, and breathing, drove me mad. Reason left me. How I reached my canoe is a mystery to me. When I came to, it was night. I was laying in the bottom of canoe, drifting down the river.
That's
So,
unique.
fast forward to 1987. A writer is fascinated by this story, by this prospector's account, and he sets out with the sole purpose of retracing this prospector's steps into the same remote region on the same path in Thomas Bay. On his very first day, he writes in his journal, a tiring day getting to Thomas Bay, which might explain the unease I feel despite my exhilaration for this project. Perhaps the knowledge of all those who perished on this unassuming land weighs too heavily on me. I assume I'll feel more like myself tomorrow. However, a few days later, the writer vanishes. His camp is found, his notes and journal were left behind, but he himself has never been heard from again.
So all of his belongings were still there. Like it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
he tried leaving and got stuck somewhere.
Everything's there, including his like notes for this book, right? This book he's trying to write about this prospector's journey.
And as a writer, you never leave your notes.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Like you take that to the bathroom with you.
I laugh because I've done it. Yeah.
Right. So now, decades later, we have the History Channel crew of Missing in Alaska, and they decide to follow that
Oh
guy's
no.
trail, hoping to uncover the ultimate truth. And for protection, they bring their dog, Clyde. Deep in the wilderness, they stumble upon what looks like a large dwelling. Nearby, they collect strange, coarse hairs. At night, they hear unsettling cries echoing throughout the forest that sounds like a baby wailing in distress. They send all of this to experts, which later identify the cries as coming from a red fox in an aggressive encounter. That's
Mhm.
natural enough, but the hairs, that's another story. The DNA tests showed that they belonged indeed to a river otter, except the hairs that were found were 3 times longer than any otter hair ever recorded.
That's kind of unique. I mean, I do really like the idea in general of species that are undiscovered.
Yeah,
So even if it's not the Kushtaka,
it could be
maybe
a
it's a
long-haired otter.
long-haired otter species.
Right.
Exactly.
And they found a sample of that twice in the episode in different areas.
That's
So it's
really cool.
interesting. Then later in the episode, Clyde, their usually steady companion, suddenly freaks out. He whines, he starts spinning in circles, and he refuses to calm down. Finally, he begins tracking something in the darkness. There's rustling up ahead. He's tracking it, tracking it. Tense music is playing. The team follows it. And when they find the end of the trail, or where Clyde doesn't seem to go any further, they find a massive footprint. It's webbed like an otter's and clawed like a predator's, yet it's as large as a bear's paw. So
Ooh.
the print was set for analysis. What do you think the results were?
I don't know. I don't think that they have like an alligator or anything up there, any sort of like large iguana type species.
It's obviously the Kushtaka.
Analysis. Kushtaka.
Kushtaka.
No.
No, the print was too distorted to prove any animal.
Oh, I thought it was gonna have a real like 80% this animal.
Yeah. And that was pretty much the wrap on the history episode. There's a man named Alex. He shared his story as well. He's running on his usual running trail, and up ahead on the trail, he sees his friend running. He runs a little faster. He's calling his name. He calls his name again, but there's no response. His friend continues to run ahead of him faster and faster, right? Like his buddy Alex is like, okay, maybe he has earbuds in. That's really strange. Suddenly, his friend bolts off the trail into the woods. Alex is like, what the heck, dude? So he says, okay, I'm going to call him. He must just be really distracted or have his music really loud. So Alex gets on the phone and his friend picks up right away and he says, "Hey, Alex, how are you?" And Alex says, "Hey, I was just running right behind you trying to call your name. Let me catch up with you. Or we run together, or do you want to meet up at the end of your run?" And his friend says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm at my house." So Alex immediately gets a strange feeling and bolts from his current location. He knows that the figure he saw was his friend. It's a small town and everyone knows everyone.
Mm.
So he is certain he came into contact with the Kushtaka, which kids in this region are taught from a very early age to avoid.
So the
And
first thing that I was thinking when you said this
mhm,
was because of the pictures you showed me mostly and thinking about this giant otter and forgetting that you said it shape changed, I was thinking, wow, his friend must be really hairy.
you're
How
like
did he mistake a giant otter for his friend?
the otter like even stole like jogging clothes. It's
Right.
like
Like,
running with
exactly.
these furry legs.
Uh-huh. That's what I was imagining.
That's great. Another man named Brad was volunteering to clean up a stretch of road outside Juneau with his friend. He had his headphones on. His friend, a few minutes later, calls out to Brad from the trees off to the side of the road. "Hey, there's a huge pile of trash back here. We need to get it." So Brad grabs a bag, and at that moment, he sees a jogger woman and her dog come around the corner. It kind of distracts him, and the dog starts viciously barking. So Brad turns around and looks back over to where his friend was in the woods, and all he can see is this flash of brown fur run deeper into the woods. Then he looks back over his shoulder again, back at the jogger, and behind her across the street is Brad's friend picking up trash.
Mm.
There's no way his friend could go from point A from one side of the street to the other side of the street without him obviously seeing him dash across the street right in front of his eyes. Brad even makes clear, he asks his friend like, "Hey, weren't you just over here calling me back into these woods?" And his friend's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been over here for like the last 20 minutes."
Ooh.
Yeah.
There are
Okay.
worse things to lose your soul to
Than becoming an otter
than becoming
man
an
person.
otter and joining a romp.
Yeah, if you could stay an otter, but then you have to transform into that gross guy.
Who says you have to? You said that they could be
Why?
any of those things.
But then I think you get an evil spirit. The next one is one of my favorites. The following story I pulled and shortened from a 2021 Reddit chain initiated by user Rosemary and Ravens. The river was always tricky. My stepmom warned the others, "Don't leave her alone by the river." We didn't listen. Summers were wild freedom, muddy feet, bug bites, dogs at our heels. The river was our playground, even if it wasn't safe. By 14, I was strong enough to help with the real work, splitting wood, hauling fish. The day my older sister and I drew the short straw, cleaning salmon on the riverbank. We worked until our hands were raw, and I lingered, rinsing in the cold water, grateful for a rare moment of quiet. That's when I felt it. The air shifted. The woods were completely silent. My skin prickled, the feeling of being watched. I looked up. Across the river stood a man, beautiful, grinning, naked. His eyes were wrong. There was no line between his iris and his pupils. I blinked, and suddenly there were two men, then three. Then one was right by my side, close enough to smell him, an animal musk under human skin. Their grins widened, playful, taunting, like they wanted me to join in the game, but I didn't know the rules. The first,
This
like,
seems like a start of a bad romance novel.
like,
I'm just
yeah,
like,
the first two slipped into the water, and when they climbed out, they weren't men anymore. They were something else, then men again. Kushtaka. The elders always warned us. They're tricksters, sometimes playful, sometimes deadly, always dangerous. I backed away very slowly. They followed, smooth and casual, like they had all the time in the world. Finally, they lost interest, turned back to their water. I didn't breathe until my sister's voice broke the silence. Rosemary, come help with these fish. I turned to her, ready to scream for her to run, only to see the men moving fast, too fast, a blur in the corner of my eye. I grabbed her, clapped a hand over her mouth, and dragged her away. When I finally looked back, the river was calm and empty. The next morning, the river bank itself was gone, washed out, as if the water itself had been waiting for us. After that, I was never left alone by the river again. So,
Kushtaka. I'm just gonna say that after every story. I feel like it's
perfect.
appropriate.
It's great. Author Bjorn Dial recounts several experiences with the Kushtaka in Outdoor Life magazine and later in his books. He writes, my dad, a very experienced outdoorsman, had what many locals would say was an encounter. He'd been hunting deer when a strange feeling overwhelmed him and he blacked out. I remember seeing a deer walking through the mist, and then, for some reason, I sat down at the base of a tree, he said. Some time later, he woke up groggy. He was wandering deeper into the woods, clutching his rifle. His backpack, which contained all his hunting and survival gear, was gone. So it's like he got dazed and confused
Mm-hmm.
after hunting deer and was going deeper into the forest in some kind of trance or something. Another Southeast Alaskan hunter has a similar story. David, a Tlingit elder, told the story of shooting a deer and then spotting his dad and brother in law at the edge of the woods. They disappeared into the dark maze of the forest. David felt compelled to chase after them. He yelled at them to stop as he ran along the well defined trail, but they wouldn't listen. David suddenly snapped to and realized that he was clawing through a thicket of devil's club. The Kushtaka had tricked him with the illusion of his family. So this guy also went into a daze and thought he was like running after his friends, but when
Mm-hmm.
he came to, he was in Devil's Club, which I looked up, and it's those big furry leaves, but the fur is actually tiny little spiny thingies
Like
instead
cactus
of fur.
Barbies things, yeah.
Almost, yeah, except it's soft but still prickly. The idea that an evil force can take on any identity it wants might be the most frightening legend of all. Could that be the lesson in the Tlingit lore? Is this the warning that even the most innocent being could have a sinister side? Is the Kushaka a fae, a spirit, possibly an elemental, or could there truly be a unique creature that has the features of man or an undiscovered otter? It's up to you to decide. The
Dun
end.
dun.
So, on the boo scale, maybe they shouldn't be ghosts. Maybe it should be like five hairy, beastly figures.
Fuck cryptids.
Five cryptids, five Loch Nesses.
5 Nessies.
Yeah, five Nessies. What is your boo scale rating?
I would give it a 2.
Because they're just cute otters.
I am not afraid of the lore. I think the shape changing thing, that's the most scary part because it reminds me of skinwalker lore with other
Yeah,
indigenous peoples.
yeah, when I was
And
reading, sorry, when I was reading articles, that's exactly what people kept saying is that there's this shape-shifting lore in a lot of different traditions. Skinwalkers in, I think it's Japan or China, they have like a nine-tailed dragon that's a shapeshifter.
mhm,
And then there's this one, and there's many others too.
there's a history of stories of shape changing creatures and that those are frightening of themselves. But do I believe in a giant otter man? Probably not. I find it harder to believe that than other things. I think because there's a greater leap between an otter and a man than, say, when you're talking about Bigfoot, just
Yeah,
on the evolutionary tree. So
but
as its own species, though, I think that it could exist, like a giant river otter could exist, and that maybe some of those qualities of that other species that hasn't been discovered yet are mixing in with stories of what could be an elemental or shape changer spirit.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Could a culture or a group of people not believe so strongly in a legend that their consciousness creates an entity?
I think their consciousness could create an energy that was an entity, but not a physical entity.
But your mind could
So
interpret it as a physical entity.
it could interpret it as a physical entity, just as some people were having those hallucinations or daydreams or whatever you want to call them that
Mm-hmm.
turned into a different reality when they quote unquote like woke up or came to. But I think that if there truly was, prints found or hair found, that's a physical item. So that's why I think that there could be a physical species that has added to this legend. Potentially,
Mm-hmm.
there are giant river otters, something that people aren't used to seeing. And then on the other side, there is also potentially a spiritual paranormal quality where people have created something or hallucinated something, or there's bad spirits, even a shape changer that changes into people or mimics people in a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, energistic capacity. So something there, almost more of a haunting than as a physical entity.
Right. I feel like I would give it at least a 3 and maybe even a little bit more. And I think my judgment is clouded because I've done so much research on this particular area of the world
Mm-hmm.
that just the area itself, with all its mysteries and all its different lores and all its different cryptids and all its different deaths, freaks me out.
Would I be careful going there? Yeah, I'd probably in general rate that location in the triangle area as a 3 or a 4. I don't mess with places like that. Just like the Bermuda Triangle, I think there's something going on in places
There's
like
something
that.
there.
And
Yeah.
even if we don't understand it, I don't necessarily think it's an otter monster.
So that's a good question if we're rating our cryptids by the space that they inhabit or by the cryptid itself, but we should probably do by the cryptid itself.
And I think it would be fun to hear more about the area in general. You seem like you have a lot more stories,
Right,
pertaining to
like
the
that I didn't
area.
right, like the avalanche I read about
Mm-hmm.
but didn't even put in the stories. And there was other anecdotes that I didn't put in either because this episode could go forever, right? Because so many people
Mm-hmm.
have experienced so many different cryptids. Maybe
Of
a
the
future
cryptids
episode.
I've heard about, I think it's one of the cooler ones I've heard about. So I give you that for sure.
Yeah, I
I
had
would,
never heard about this one
I like
before
the
now.
name too. Bonus points for
Kushtaka.
Kushtaka. And so maybe I would bump it up to a 3.
Once I learned that there was a cryptid based on an otter, I was sold. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, that's so cool. Like an otter cryptid. I love otters. But now, since I did this story, I'm not sure I could go to the zoo and look at an otter the same way. A romp of otters. I might be like, is that romp extra dangerous? And they're meanwhile just like tossing a ball back and forth or like
Mm-hmm.
swimming with their shells because they're so cute. And I'm like, ah, Kushaka. Anyway, that's my story. Your turn.
Kushtaka. I love it. Yeah, that was really fun. I decided to do a cryptid from my home state of Wisconsin,
There are so many cryptids based on in Wisconsin when I was researching cryptids. There is
and that's
something happening there.
because we have bars on every corner. No, I'm just kidding. It could also be the vast imaginations of people because, at least in this little area that I'm going to go into here in a moment, is going to be where Dungeons and Dragons originated. I think people sometimes, out of boredom, are more creative, and that might have a lot to do with the imaginations of people here. But who knows?
Yeah, maybe if you want to be a creative person, you need to move where you're going to be absolutely bored. So all your creativity comes out.
So you have to entertain yourself. Think about that, how true that is, though. Like when you're a little person, or at least we were little kids, probably not anymore. And your mom or dad would be like, go entertain yourself, go play a game, go do whatever. And you would have hours of time that you would come up with
Yeah.
stories with your dolls and other things because you didn't have TV or the internet or other things to entertain you. You would entertain yourself.
Right. You'd make up your own stories. They'd be like, get out of the house, go build a fort somewhere. I don't want to see you until dinner.
I don't want to see you ever again.
That's how it was.
I think all parents need a break sometimes. But
Yeah.
nowadays it's like they need a break. And so you put a movie on.
Right.
That was a tangent. My cryptid is the Beast of Bray Road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin.
Okay. I have heard of this, but I know nothing about it.
You probably have heard of it because of Expedition X did an episode
Oh,
on it.
yeah. Okay. That sounds familiar.
Actually, it was a two-part episode. So imagine you decide to visit the quaint little town of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. It's known as the Christmas card town for its cute little main street and town square, which has been pictured on many Christmas paintings and cards over the years. You've shopped all day, autumn, and you're headed to a friend's house nearby. You get into your car and drive a few minutes out of town, leaving the warm glow of street lamps behind. The atmosphere changes, morphing from the idyllic countryside to something closer to a Tim Burton film. Stars glitter sharply in the night sky, their light outshined by the full moon. The air is crisp, dragging fallen leaves across the country road as you drive past cornfields, open farmland, and dense pockets of forest. Their branches sway and dip as if stretching their elongated, bony fingers out to scratch the roof and door of your car as you pass. It's like you've been transported somewhere else, into some kind of dark fairy tale. You hit a sudden bump, and your headlights flicker, allowing the darkness to collapse around you for the briefest of moments before they shine again. You hope you didn't hit something, so you slow your car down, pull off to the side of the road, and get out to check the scene. Of course,
No.
you.
You never get out.
Right. So, of course, you leave your car running because you've seen this scary movie before and you know better.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop the hair from raising across your arms as you look back the way you came. There, about 100 feet away, crouches a shadowed figure with long, shaggy fur, a muscular chest, and legs bowed in a strange canine fashion. As you watch, it stands upright on its two back legs, holding something in its outstretched arms. Some kind of creature? Maybe something that you drove over? Its face turns slowly to you, its red eyes glowing, before lunging forward on all fours and racing in your direction with a growl. You suck in a cold breath that impales the back of your throat before racing back to your car and speeding. Somehow, some way, the creature manages to jump onto the trunk, claws scratching along the metal. As you pull forward, the force causes it to fall back, slipping off of the wet trunk. And yet, it continues to chase you for almost a half a mile through the rain before suddenly peeling off into the trees.
Oh,
You've
I
just
don't like
encountered
it.
the legendary Beast of Bray Road.
It gives me chills just listening to that.
That is a true story. I have embellished it a little, but that account actually did occur to an 18-year-old girl in
Ugh.
1999
Oh my
as she was
gosh.
driving by herself on Bray Road.
That's horrifying. Is that like the first time?
It was not, in fact, the first experience or encounter. In
Eek.
fact, the little community of Elkhorn and other nearby towns started its own police file with hundreds of reports just like this one. And the police file is labeled simply werewolf. So
What?
let that soak in for a minute. It's not labeled wild dog or wildlife attack or rabid bear or some other thing. It's labeled werewolf
Yikes.
by the police.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So the beast sightings actually date back all the way to 1936. The first account came from Mark Shackleman, a father, husband, and former boxer who worked as a night watchman for the St. Coletta School for Exceptional Children. That was a lot to process in that sentence. So let me just pick apart a little bit. So he was a father, husband, but I put in there he was also a boxer because when we've talked about hauntings and other things before, I think it's important to give a context. This was not some guy who didn't have experience or couldn't handle himself. He was a tough guy. He was a boxer and also worked as this night watchman role,
Okay.
a civilian security force like a policeman. The school was located inside a former Franciscan convent, and the grounds were vast, with several old buildings, an orchard, and wide open fields where several Native American burial mounds had been preserved. It was his
Ew.
job to make.
I'm not
Yeah,
like
right.
liking
We're
this at
already in
all.
Native American burial mound territory.
I want to go back to my fluffy otter face. Ooh,
So
okay.
it was Mark's job to make the rounds to ensure the property was secure. And one evening, just before midnight, as he was crossing through the fields, he spotted a hunched form on all fours atop one of the mounds, its long claws violently gouged over and over into the ground, kicking up the loose soil. He thought at first it may be a large dog or some kind of wolf, but it seemed so much bigger, and its movements were strange, especially as it turned and looked at him and rose onto its back legs. The sleek, hairy body unfurled, towering at over 6 foot tall, with the head of a wolf, but torso and arms that looked more like a man. He noted that its pinky fingers and thumbs were shriveled, visibly shorter than the three longer center digits it used to rake the earth. It growled, low and menacing, causing Mark to step back. At the same moment, with unnatural speed, the creature fled into the nearby woods, leaving behind only the stench of rotting meat.
Oh, that could be the worst smell ever, I think.
Another note from the same account also called it rotting flesh,
Oh
which is
gosh.
even worse.
I mean, that sounds worse, but honestly, in practice, it probably smells very similar.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Ooh.
So if you were in his place, would you go back to your job after that?
No, that's horrifying.
You'd be like, nope, see ya, I'm done.
Probably. Yeah. I guess though, I mean, if you're, the only breadwinner for your family, you
Mm-hmm.
go back. Like some people don't have a choice. It's not like, oh, I'm not coming in tomorrow. That freaked me out.
And in 1936, he was the man of the family and the provider.
Right.
He actually went home and told the story to his wife, and together they agreed that it must have been some kind of bear, maybe.
Hmm.
So he went back the next night after convincing himself that that must have been what it was. This time, however, just in case, he took with him a large flashlight that could act as a baton for defense if needed. And as before, he walked the fields. As before, he saw the same hulking shadow digging into the burial mound. This time, however, Mark was ready. He shined his flashlight at the creature, hoping to blind it or scare it away.
Hmm.
Once more it stood. It was no bear. The muzzle was much too long, and in the light, he could see saliva glistening from the fangs as its lips pulled back into a snarl. The growl was almost like speech, half human and half beast. Mark would later recount that it sounded like Gadara.
It's like a witch chant.
I'm sure there was a more guttural approach to saying that word, but I,
Try it.
I
Try it again. Like
Gadara.
there you go. You're good at the voices.
I
That
don't
sounded
think so.
more werewolfy.
So then, in his words, he said, I did the only thing I could do. I prayed to God to save me, and it turned and slowly walked away. For a long time, I stood there. That bad smell hung in the air. And then I said another prayer of thankfulness for surviving. I never saw that thing again, nor anything like it.
Yeah, I'd be creeped out.
You might be thinking to yourself, why would there be any importance on God? Like, what is that? Why is that relevant? It's because it had some sort of inflection to it, some sort of syllabic nature that made it sound almost like a human was trying to say
Right.
a
It's like
word.
speech and not just moaning or groaning or animal noises.
Right. So
Yeah.
upon hearing this story, some people since that time looked up what that could be in word form, what the closest word or something would be. And there's a similarity to the word Gadara, which is a biblical location in which Jesus exorcised a demon-possessed man who had been coming from the tombs. Is it a coincidence that this creature
Yikes.
was on burial mounds and said this word?
Oh gosh. I like I legit just shivered in my chair.
I'm shivering and I know the story. So, because of this similarity, some people have identified that this creature could be a hellhound. Keep that in mind as we go on. Sightings became more prevalent in the 80s and 90s. The reason why is unknown, perhaps because just as with other species of animal, people started encroaching into its home territory, or perhaps for those who are skeptics, it was the rise in the young imaginations of those in the area. After all, as I said to you before, this was not too far from Lake Geneva, which is the birthplace of D&D. In either case, there are a few other stories that stood out to me that I'm going to very briefly mention. In 1989, my birth year, woo! Well, I shouldn't say that.
Date yourself, give your personal details away.
In 1989, which has no relevance to me whatsoever, a woman was driving home one night and caught sight of a massive creature kneeling near the road with long claws that didn't shy away from her headlights. Spooked, she researched the very next day at the local library and found an entry in the 1976 book, The Golden Book of Mysteries, which featured an illustration labeled werewolf. In her words, she said, "To this day, I believe it was satanic. I don't believe in werewolves per se, but I believe something could be, well, conjured up."
Can I just pause here for a moment
Sure.
to point out to everyone that these were the days when you saw something or wanted to know something, you could not get your phone out and Google it. You had to be so motivated to go to the library when it opened in the morning
Right. And
to
if you were so
research.
motivated to go to the library, that meant it was something important.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Continue.
So there was another woman who reported an attempted break in by a beast at her home. And the break in, when they came to investigate it, they found that her screen door had a slash in it. They found footprints or paw prints that were over a foot long.
Whoa.
And her horse, because she had a horse in the back of her house, had a large gash across its throat.
Oh, like it died?
No, the horse survived, but it
What?
was
How does it have
injured.
a gash on its throat and it lives?
Well, people can have gashes on their throat and live too.
If only that horse could talk.
It would say, Gadara.
Then we would know the truth.
So, the story that I told you at the beginning,
Hmm.
the woman in that story, her notation was that she thought it was, quote, a freak of nature, one of God's mistakes.
Yikes, that is saying something.
Right? Because it's not just, oh, there was this huge animal and I didn't know what it was. It's, this is some weird amalgamation creature.
Yeah, yeah.
There was another sighting in the 2000s by a former assistant district attorney of Walworth County, where this is located. And I thought that that was interesting, not because of the details of the sighting, which seems in line with other sightings, but because of who that person was. A former assistant district attorney came out and said, "This is what I saw."
Okay. So that's saying something also.
Just like a police saying something, like,
Right.
you think, okay, I'm putting more stock into that because that's a real adult, an adult.
An adult. A real a real grown up right there.
Right there, yeah. And then finally, I have to mention that in 2020, there was a man who snapped a photo that he claimed to be the beast. And I say this because it's the most well circulated photo. If you look up the Beast of Bray Road, you're likely to see this photo. But there are many, many skeptics about it. And I happen to be one of them. I think that this picture in particular was staged. It
Hmm.
looks like some kind of a taxidermied wolf
Okay.
that he placed on the side of the road to look like it could be this creature. That's what I think maybe it is. But
Okay.
I think we'll
Like,
add it to the page so that people can see it just the same.
okay. I'm interested to see it.
A local journalist by the name of Linda Godfrey was given the task to round up stories and report on them for the local weekly paper around the year 2000. She began as a skeptic but slowly started believing, largely due to the sincerity of the witnesses she spoke to. However, she remained on the fence. In her words, there is a high probability that everyone is not always seeing the same thing. There could be a biological, physical animal seen by some, while others see phantoms or supernatural entities. A few may be also misidentifications or hoaxes, which I think is fair,
Okay.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
summarizes pretty much any cryptid.
Right. Yeah. I think that's probably a good mix.
So, despite this, she was so ingrained in this story and fascinated that she ended up writing more than just the article. She went on to compile all of her notes and thoughts into a book in 2003 entitled The Beast of Bray Road, Tailing Wisconsin's Werewolf.
Cool.
In her book, she covers a number of angles, theorizing just what the beast could be if there was one: a large wolf, a bear, perhaps with mange, because bears can walk on their back legs, and a bear with mange looks more emaciated, so skeletal, but also without the fur on parts of its body, like maybe its torso and face. So it would look like more of a grotesque creature. And she also said it could be pranksters in wolf costumes or even a misidentified Bigfoot, which I thought was funny.
So her whole theory is she doesn't think it's real at all.
No, she kind of leaves it up to people. She thinks that the witnesses, what they're saying, is authentic and true. So she wanted to put all of their stories together and out there because she does believe that they have had these experiences and that they're not lying about them. So there's something. And so she doesn't know if they're all the same something. She's saying, well, maybe some of them are this and maybe some of them are this. And she goes
Okay.
into the possibilities of what all of them could be. But I think really it was meant to just be a summation slash gathering of the stories themselves.
Okay.
Some Elkhorn residents still believe that whatever this creature is, that it's satanic in nature, possibly a hellhound, as we said before. Satanic rituals were more popular in the 80s and 90s when reports really started coming in, which could have been the product of a ritual gone wrong or maybe the result of the satanic panic era, people being afraid of all the
Hmm.
satanic stuff happening and thinking, oh, somebody drummed up some satanic thing.
Right. It's also like a high time of drug use also. So it could be a mixture of that, don't you think?
Also true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Despite that, the Beast of Bray Road is considered the most famous of modern American werewolves. It has gained notoriety through movies and TV, including a 2005 horror film and the TV shows Monster Quest, Mystery Hunters, and one of our personal favorites, Expedition X with Josh Gates.
Yeah, I love that one.
Expedition X interviewed a few witnesses in their episode, one of which was a former teacher who owned a farm property and saw the creature firsthand, as well as found half eaten deer carcasses and tracks. The tracks, which he had photos of, showed 5 toes and a heel pad, which is not consistent with coyotes or wolves. A few dog breeds have them, but they were much too large to be a dog. In
Mm.
addition, the prints were found to be 48 inches apart. To give some context, the typical tracks of a large gray wolf are about 30 inches apart, which means that the stride of this creature was 1.5 times as big.
Wow. Yeah, 48 inches. apart from paw to paw.
That's 4 feet.
Yeah. I was like, that's
Crazy.
taller than Ainsley. So, like, taller than Ainsley laying down is how far the pads are. That is crazy
Think just as a person how tall you'd have to be
to
to have
make
that.
that
Yeah.
stride. Right.
Another witness that they have in the Expedition X episode is Sophia Bierman, a bookkeeper who grew up in the Midwest and has been used to seeing wild animals her whole life. She shared an account of seeing the beast in her own backyard, describing it just the same as the others, furry with a muscular torso and hands hanging by its side as it walked upright across the width of her property. And that width of the property was much farther, she thought, than any bear would walk upright. Her daughter, even at one point, yelled for her mom from her bedroom, saying, "Mommy, there's a monster in the bushes."
Oh, that's sad.
After which, Sophia went outside and found similar large tracks in the soil, which she too took pictures of that are on the episode.
Gosh, okay. Were they like the same? The hill
They
pad?
were, yeah.
Oh, gosh, okay.
So while Josh and Phil explored near Bray Road, they actually found a series of large prints to match with 5 toes and an extra heel pad. Phil was in disbelief and he scanned this print and sent the images in for analysis, thinking perhaps it could be a bear with some sort of disfigurement. The results came back 95% canine, indeed not a bear, and yet inconclusive due to having the extra toe.
Ugh, yep, I remember that.
One theory that came out of the episode was that the beast could be using Bray Road as hunting grounds due to the overabundance of deer as a food source, and that it might actually have a den and live closer to a cluster of sightings about 10 miles away in a remote little forest near a lake. As wolves can move and hunt up to 30 miles per day, it's not odd to think that a different kind of beast may be continually on the move through a similar or even larger territory, only some of which is inhabited, and therefore, the number of sightings wouldn't be as much as we think it could be.
Right.
So, for me, in general, cryptids are a reminder that humans haven't discovered everything. Humans only inhabit about 14.5% of the planet. New species are discovered all the time, and there's no knowing what crawls, slithers, or hunts in the shadowed parts of the world. In the words of H.P. Lovecraft, my Cthulhu nerd friends out there, there are horrors beyond life's edge that we do not suspect, and once in a while, man's evil prying calls them just within our range.
That's deep. Like, it's like, don't mess with it
Yep.
because we bring it here.
Basically, that we're encroaching onto the territory of things, whether it's through curiosity or just expansion of towns into different places and areas that we haven't been in before.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's my cryptid story.
I like it. I very much remember this episode of Expedition X.
It's season 3, episode 1 and 2.
I don't know. I feel like, as I did with the Kushtaka, that people have these experiences and they're so adamant that something happened or something's there.
Autumn, what would you rate it on the Boo scale?
I like to be a John Lockean theorist and believe that people are true and good in their nature. And I just want to believe people when they say something. And given so many people have documented the same thing, similarly with the Kushaka and other cryptids, that it makes me want to believe it is true.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm believing it's true, I would give this a 4. Like, I would still get out there and investigate it. I'm not scared enough to not investigate it myself or try to find evidence. But given that it could be demonic, is scary and something I don't necessarily like to mess with. But I do tend to believe, I think, in cryptids myself, most of them.
I would also rate it, I think, a 3. I want to give it a 4. I do believe something could be there. But I think it's one of those things where, again, it could be at least in part a species of animal.
It could be a species of animal. And that's why I don't give it a 5, because if we knew it was some demonic created entity creature, I feel like it would be a 5. The fact that it could just be a species of animal is
Mhm.
what I think that chance, that opportunity is why I would still investigate it to try to find out.
I think for me to give it a 4 or a 5, I would need some more concrete evidence, maybe an actual picture that I thought was an accurate picture and not a staged one, or somebody's trap camera maybe caught something, or even now the ring cameras on people's houses, their personal cameras, you'd think would be able to catch something if it was roaming backyards, or
But do
dash
people in
cams.
Wisconsin have ring cameras? I mean, it's so rural and everyone knows everyone.
Yeah,
I
of
just,
course. Yeah,
well, I just think,
we
I
have
just
ring
feel like,
cameras and dash cameras, and yes,
what? You have society up there and no one's caught it on a camera?
not that I found. That's what I'm saying is I think I would give it a higher rating, even if it was something that was blurry, bad
Mm.
pixelation, where it looked like a large wolf or something being upright walking across the camera. I would definitely raise my rating.
I feel like those people who had prints in their yard and who had encounters with it should definitely put in a trail cam or something just in case, something trips it again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be great. In fact, if I were somebody trying to research it, and I know that there are groups out there who do in the area, even, I would go and ask those people and say, is it okay if we put up this camera in your backyard facing out into, the
The
trees or the
woods.
wilderness?
Yeah. Yeah. That would be really interesting. Expedition X should get back out there and just leave up some trail cams.
If you're a cryptozoologist who believes in any cryptids, let us know what your favorite is. Even if you're not, let us know what your favorite is.
Yeah, we would love to know. Give us some ideas for future cryptid episodes because that was really fun. I kept changing my mind on what I wanted to talk about because they're all so fun and scary. So I loved it. It was fun to do. So thanks for bearing with us through that unusual episode since it wasn't technically a haunting, but still had some creepy vibes for you. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. We put a poll out there for our next episode on our Patreon, and it was between haunted libraries and places of booze. Get it?
Get it? Booze? Guess
The
what people
winner
chose?
is
Places of
places of booze.
booze.
Yay! So our next episode, Laura and I will each be choosing a brewery, a bar, a winery,
Tavern.
tavern. So that'll be that'll be fun. Thanks for giving us our next topic.
And if you want to vote for what we do in an upcoming episode, this is your chance to jump on Patreon and get involved.
Right. This is your chance. And I don't know if you've taken a look at our Patreon, but if you sign up by a certain date that is coming up, I think it's the end of October, we do are sending Krampus holiday cards out to our Patreon members. So check that out and make sure that you get on our Patreon before that deadline so you can get a special Krampus gift. As always, thanks for listening and
Happy
happy
haunting.
haunting.